Are you still interested in learning SSIS and you're probably running into error in how to load in SSIS data or how to have SSIS working on your laptop? In this video, I'm going to be talking about that. First of all, welcome to my cyberspace. Now let's get right into it. There are few tools you need to get ready for you to be able to use SSIS, and you will need to install Visual Studio. It's different from Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio, there are two different GUI. Another thing also is that you will need to have SQL Server like running already on your device, and we would install SSIS from there. So let me share my screen so that we can have a better understanding of what I'm trying to say. So one thing you want to try to find out is if you already have SQL Server Management Studio installed already. And so I'm just going to try to open it up. So if you have SQL Server Management installed already, you can skip to the first few minutes of this video and just go to the part where we try to load in SSIS. So I'm just going to search in my search bar. I'm going to search in SSMS. So it depends on whatever year you have. If you don't have SQL Server Management Studio, so there are other videos that I have that explain in detail how to install SQL Server Management Studio, but you need to have SQL Server first of all. And one of the ways to know that is if you have SQL Server, if you just search it. But if you have SQL Server Management Studio, most likely you already have SQL Server and you've probably run some SQL query, you search for configuration. So if you open up this SQL Server 2022 configuration manager, whatever year yours is. So let's try to see what is this. So I see here that I do have SQL Server. So it says it's running. So this is running here. So and I can, if it's not running, you can just maybe start, stop, or whatever it is. Start if you have SQL Server already. If you don't have SQL Server, so one of the things you want to do is just go to install SQL Server. So make sure you install SQL Server first of all. This is what you need to install. There are like quite a number of steps for you to be able to install SQL Server. It's either you install the developer edition or the express edition. I will not go into details on how to install SQL Server. So you need to have SQL Server already. For you to know you have SQL Server, is just for you to search for the configuration. It's going to pop up. When you do have SQL Server already, then you would go ahead to install SQL Server Management Studio. Install, you just type in SSMS. That's the same thing. So these are like some of the things you will need to be able to run in SQL Server. So this is what you need. Let's assume you have SQL Server Management Studio already. So one of the things we try to do, let's just open up SQL Server Management Studio and see. So there's something that we are looking for. We want to get to know our server name. So this is my server name. So when you connect, so for you it might be a different interface, whatever it is. So most likely this is what I'm using. So this is my server name. Another way to also know your server name is if you go to configuration and you try to click on the properties, you are going to be able to see your server name. So if you click on SQL Server properties, you should be able to see your server name somewhere. So this is the host name, right? So whatever is your host name, most likely your server name. So another thing is you can also try using dots, but that's not the essence of this video. So when you have SQL Server, one of the things you also want to do is to ensure that you are connecting properly. So I could just try to ensure that okay, this is working, and that's all that I need. In case you have a table, you can have that. You don't necessarily need AdventureWorks. In case you want to know how to load in AdventureWorks database, then you can check out my other video on SQL Server, which is going to be linked to this video also. Just to be sure that everything is working well, we can load in just one of the data, select top 100. Everything is working well. So if you are running error in this, you might have issues you being able to use use SSIS. So we need all the SQL Server running before we go and load in SSIS. So the next thing you need to do is to ensure you have Visual Studio. So when you click on, so just click on install Visual Studio. So Visual Studio most times will come with a Visual Studio installer. So when you, let's just click on, so this is a free download. You click on the free download. I have this already, but I'm just going to re-download. So when you open up this is the installer, not necessarily the app itself. So Visual Studio allows you to be able to install SSMS, and also allows you to be able to install Visual Studio in itself. So that's what, like, something like you sort of have to like understand. So it says update, close. So when you then do that, then you need to, for you are going to see like launch, or you're going to see install. So just click on install, follow all the steps, and you would be good to go. In case you want to know the steps to load in Visual Studio, my other videos will also talk about that. So right now that you have Visual Studio installed, so first few things is that we want to open Visual Studio. So remember, Visual Studio is running from Visual Studio installer and also Visual Studio Code. So I just going to try to open up Visual Studio. So Visual Studio, whatever year you have, I try to open up Visual Studio, and that's where it could get a little bit tricky, because I've done some projects. So that's why you're seeing some things right here. Normally I would recommend that you have a designated folder where you want to work on your stuff. So for me, I have this folder for SSIS, and I would just come here and so click on continue without code, or either create new projects, without one you want to do continue without code. And one of the things you also want to do is, in case maybe you ran into some error, you can just click on file, and that's it. So that's basically, so that when you click on file, you click on add new. But today this video we're not going to be talking about how to, like, load in a data for now. So what we need to just learn how to install. So that's one way. So let's click on extension. So now is when we want to install SSIS. So what we have right here is Visual Studio. So Visual Studio is like a GUI. It's like thinking of Visual Studio Code, or you have like Jupyter Lab, or you have Anaconda. Those are necessarily GUI. So the SSIS that we are running is like we have to install that again separately, so that then when you have SSIS installed, then you allow you to use SSIS within Visual Studio. Hope that makes sense. So you click on extension, you click on my first few things, just to backtrack a little bit, ensure that you have SSMS, and you also have SQL Server installed. Ensure you download Visual Studio. Then you click on manage extension. When you click on manage extension, then the next thing you want to do is to browse. So just search in SSIS. So when you search in SSIS, you're going to see this, and you will click on install. When you do install, you would most likely it's going to be downloaded, but that is not just the final step. After downloading, the next step is, let's look at the downloads. For myself, it's going to look like something like this. This is going to look something like this, but let's take that away. So it's going to look something like you install it. It's just follow through all the steps, and you are going to be ready to go. One of the things you also want to do is, in case you run into error, few things is you want to restart, you want to close your SQL Server Management Studio. Try to close up a couple of apps, because one of the things I notice when people are trying to install SSIS is, when they run into error, is try to close up some of the apps that you have running if you run into error installing SSIS. Another thing also you can do is to restart your device. So restarting your device is also something that might also give you the solution. In the next video, I'm going to be talking about like the Visual Studio like interface, and how to better run SSIS as a package. Thank you.